We got this story. Steve Bannon charged with money laundering and conspiracy. So as much as there may be some stressors for the woke left because they might get canceled, I'm sure they view that stress as preferable to being targeted by the DOJ for what? Well, I'll be careful here. I am reluctant to trust the DOJ or, in this instance, New York State's. It's the Southern District. Actually, no, this is New York State. This is Letitia James. I don't trust any of this stuff. I don't believe them. Sorry, been there, done that. Russiagate, Ukraine gate. Get out of here with all this nonsense. Now they're criminally charging Bannon again because he was just charged with contempt of Congress. They're going nuclear against the MAGA Republicans. I expect it'll get way worse.
Yeah.
I'm curious if you guys think they'll indict Trump before the midterms.
Before the midterms? I don't know. I think they will indict Trump. I don't see what all of this would be for if they weren't. I don't know about before the midterms. Maybe.
I don't think they'll do it before the midterms. I just feel like it's not going to move fast enough. But I will say that I think Letitia James is just a very clear example of judicial activism. I think that she very selectively picks her cases and, has a clear agenda, which I would not want if I were a person from New York as my attorney general.
So what would you call it if at the federal level, at the state level, Democrats are taking positions of authority in prosecutors' offices, in the DA's offices, in the federal government, in the attorneys. They're getting jobs as attorneys and judges and stuff like that, and then they're using that power specifically to target their political rivals, lock them up, shut them down, take away their rights. Like, what do you call that? What's going on?
It's like corruption or something. It's crazy.
Just corruption?
Corruption's not a strong enough word. I think what is challenging for a lot of people is that this is part of a strategic installment of sympathetic people at certain levels of government. So if people are interested in influencing elections, you could say you should run for office, but you could also say you should work at the polls, you should be in this county position, you should do whatever. And I think that the placement of prominent Democrats in offices of attorney general was something that most people wouldn't think to do because they think it should be a nonpartisan position, right? They don't think we should put someone who has a certain political agenda there. We should put someone who's a really good lawyer, really good at the law.
I just mean.
Would you call it fascism?
No, it's not. It's not that. I mean, fascism is an element in authoritarianism. What we're seeing is that ideologically driven Democrat types are intentionally infiltrating these offices, like the Soros prosecutors, to get their people out of jail and to put their opponents in jail. It is some kind of subterfuge.
Yeah, it's a subvertive cronyism, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's. I don't want to say civil war. I know everybody's getting ready to drink because it's not quite there, but it's something close to that, where a political faction is weaponizing the government to shut down their political opponents, and their political opponents are just sitting there and taking it.
Well, on MSNBC the other day, a commentator said the Civil War may have already started.
That's right.
Now, they didn't really specify exactly what they meant by that. They were commenting on Biden's speech, but that's a little frightening. Only one side is really fighting.
Exactly, and that's the funny thing. Fox News and Newsmax had this incredulous attitude, like the left is talking about civil war. How silly. It's like, are you watching what they're doing to your president?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're sitting there saying it's happening and we're doing it. Kathy Griffin basically admitting the Democrats are ready to start a war. And then the right's going like, oh, there's no civil war. And have fun in prison. But I guess the good news is we'll be gulag cellmates. So, we'll have each other's company.
We've been saying that for a while. But, I kind of take back my answer on whether or not they're going to indict Trump, because I do think that a mistake that Republicans are making right now before the midterms is to constantly talk about Trump, constantly talk about what the Democrats are doing to Trump. I'm not saying we shouldn't talk about that for the reason that you just said, but that really doesn't resonate with most people who are watching Fox News and Newsmax. Most people who are not on Twitter, they do not feel like we're in a civil war. Even if they see things like this happening to Steve Bannon or to Trump, they're not thinking this is probably going to happen to me one day. What I think resonates is the radicalism that is coming from the left, coming from Joe Biden and their agenda. And the right is doing a really bad job of talking about Joe Biden. They're focused so much on Trump when honestly a lot of people don't want to talk about Trump. They don't want to hear about Trump.
I think they also get lost in like the fact that Joe Biden seems so sick and ill, right? Like you don't want to make fun of someone
like
who seems
bad
like,
for them a little bit.
It's like they don't want to say anything that's like too gauche. Like they don't want to say anything that was like obviously kind of cruel to make someone fun of someone who's like in decline. But like Joe Biden does not seem well.
But
I think
so
they're
much
missing
material in their
opportunity.
policies. You don't even
This
have
is
to
exactly
talk
it.
about the fact
I think
that
that
he's a
they
geezer.
think that the way that the left focus solely on Trump, the person, the man, the president, like that's what they think they need to do Joe Biden, and it makes them uncomfortable. But what actually they should be doing is examining his cabinet and who else is in there and what else is going on. Like we are focused on the Biden administration and making Joe Biden the face of that we forget that there are other people. And I think when Corinne Jean-Pierre came into office, like we were all sort of like, wait, what? This is your pick? Like Jen Psaki was like, pretty good. Like
she was good.
She was good. And this is who they followed up with. So you should have questions about every other staffing decision in the White House.
I kind of feel like Jean-Pierre doesn't actually do work. Like before the press briefings, she's like watching reruns of Friends or like The Office.
Oh, I just
and
think
then
she's
she's like, I got to
nervous.
do a press conference. And then she goes out there. I remember there was at one point Peter Doocy asked her a question and she goes, I don't know that I remember that happening. And it's like, that was like a
But does that mean that they are not telling their own White House press secretary what's going on so that they can be like, just deny it? Like, you don't know.
But what's
I
the-
think she's
that seems like a crazy strategy.
girl.
Look, I'm sorry. It's insane to care about a White House press secretary, even as Jen Psaki or Kayleigh McEnany or otherwise, because you can't expect the press secretary to know everything and to be completely honest. I don't care what party they're with. There's no way.
No, they're there
But
to
that's
spin.
not their job.
Yeah.
Their job is not to be honest.
No, it's to
No,
spin.
exactly. It's why is anyone bothering? So everyone's like, oh, Peter Doocy asked that tough question. What? He may as well have asked a brick wall. Come on. What's the point?
But I stand by like what's going on with Joe Biden's cabinet. Why don't we talk about them more? I feel like I hear nothing about it.
Well, the right does, but again, I think that there are
I don't
a lot
think they
of
talk about it enough.
squishy. Well, I mean, I think that we talk about. Well, we might get kicked off Twitter if we say like the HHS secretary is not the woman that he says that he is. And I mean, there are different things that I think the right says maybe not totally effectively. I don't know if Republicans in office do though. They don't seem to be.
I kind of feel like if someone was running as a Republican and they just like went up on the debate stage and were like, my principal issue is no sex change surgeries for children. What say you, opponent? And let them be like, I'm in favor of that. And be like, okay, can I go home now?
Yeah.
Because regular people aren't getting that framing. They're hearing healthcare,
Yeah.
gender
Protect
affirming.
trans kids.
And it's just like, you got to keep going and be like, oh, no, I agree with the healthcare thing for sure. Yeah, I do. I definitely think trans kids are real and they need healthcare. I just don't think the sex change surgery is appropriate for minors. Do you?
God, I saw a picture of a girl who got a sex change surgery, had a double mastectomy. Maybe she was like 13.
the redhead?
Yeah.
Oh my
And her
gosh. I mean,
eyes.
she looked
You got to find this
11.
picture too. Maybe on the after show we can pull it up. Yeah, and the sadness in her eyes after the
So
mastectomy.
sad. So sad.
Also 13. Like, what are we doing here?
If that, I mean, she looks really young.
So I want to point this out too, at risk of pissing off YouTube. We just talked the other day about TikTokers who are feigning terminal illnesses for likes. We know for a fact that Instagram is making young teenage girls depressed because they don't get enough likes. Do people not think they think that those are isolated from social what is it? Social contagion, gender dysphoria? What do they call it? Rapid onset gender dysphoria.
Yeah.
Now I talked with James Lindsay and Billboard Chris, and I've said I think trans kids absolutely do exist. I think endocrine disruptors, hormone disruptors probably play a role in this. But I think a lot of what we're seeing in the news and with these families, a lot of these kids are undergoing social pressures from social media to cave into this, and you've got a perfect storm of a young kid going through puberty, dealing with body changes, popular social media content supporting transition, and parents who also are, falling for
a salivating medical industry that can profit predatorily off of these young children. Absolutely disgusting. The Sackler family, if you look into what was it, Dope Sick, and their pushing of oxycodone on the population, knowing it was addictive and telling everyone it wasn't, getting the FDA to sign
and
off.
mocking people in rural areas where they were pushing this drug in their emails to one another.
These are the people that are doing this to the kids. It's not the Sacklers, I'm not saying, but it's people like that want profit over everything else.
Now I'm just pausing for a second and looking at the news article we have pulled up, and I'm like, how did we segue from Steve Bannon being charged with money laundering to trans kids? That was a fast. What were we talking about?
I'm trying to think about what the connector.
Well, we talked
was.
about the AG, and then we talked about putting your
How
ideology
they're weaponizing,
into.
and then we talk.
yeah.
I
Biden's
got it.
cabinet.
I got Trump indictment. They're talking about that before the midterms. You said that they should be talking more about the people in their administration. I said, well, you can't say that some people in their administration are not the gender, and then we kind of got onto that. They are creating though if we're going to stick on the whole trans kids thing, which I would not agree with Tim that there is such thing as a trans person. I just wouldn't. There's people with gender dysphoria. There's people that are confused. There are people that, cross dress, whatever. But anyway, they are creating lifelong slaves to the medical system because, okay, you do a quote unquote gender affirming hysterectomy where you take out a young girl's uterus and her ovaries. Oh, well, great. Now you need to freeze your eggs. Now you're going to have to use a surrogate and have to go through all of these different fertility treatments in order to have kids one day if you want to. And so they are lifelong medical patients. And of course, the medical industrial complex likes that. It's all connected.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.